right, thank you for staying with us. This morning we'll talk, more about the economy and matters arising. A few days ago, on Sunday precisely, the chairman of Dangote group of companies and petrochemical and refineries, had a press conference, and very uncharacteristically of him, he, spoke like somebody that was ready to give it whatever it takes. When he answered questions, many questions about the running of his industry, his refinery, the operation, and he talked about the issue of sabotage, from some members of his staff, and he talked about the regulator as well. He talked about pricing and saying he will do whatever is possible within his power to make sure the price of petrol per liter is very reduced and not even, higher than 700 naira. Then he took a swipe at one of the regulators head, talking about the Nmdpra'S boss, Farouk Ahmed, and in which he said, in fact, through many, way of talking, to say the man might be a corrupt man because his lifestyle and the way he does his things cannot be explained by his means. The means of his livelihood and whatever he's getting as a emolument cannot explain the ostentatious lifestyle that he lives, and especially what he does with the education of his children, paying in dollars to the tune of millions of dollars. And he said if the man denies that, he has facts and figures to back that up. And you will remember, this is not the first time that there will be issue of this back and forth between Mr. Farouk Lawan and Aliko Dangote. You remember earlier in the year when Aliko Dangote, I think it was in 2014 or thereabout, when the Nmdpra'S bros said the Dangote, even after commissioning, where he said the Dangote refinery was at 35% workability or functionality at that time, and said, most of the fuel in Nigeria, and even some of those that are imported, are substandard, including that of Dangote, refineries. And, Mr. Aliko Dangote didn't allow the thing to get cold at the time. He took a swipe back at him, and, when he alleged that some regulators are colluding with some persons to import some very substandard product from Malta, in a particular refinery where they just mix some things together. And it took the intervention of the presidency to douse that tension then. And since then, the center can no longer hold. We allow you, if actually that clip is ready, that had to deal with where Mr. Farouk talked about the Dangote refinery. We'll start with that, or whatever is available.
Fancy that we have, the regulator is very smart. Farouk is very smart. So what he's doing is only telling Nigerians what is being taken out of the refinery. Okay, so what has been taken out of the refinery is certainly different than what the refinery has produced. It's like you go to a market where a market is oversupplied. If it's oversupplied, obviously, yes, we can't come and throw it into the sea now, just to prove to people. But that is why when we got tired of all this misleading information, we now say, okay, you know what? This is it. We even wrote him a letter that now you come every day, check our stock, which you don't want to share before, because people can take position on that, stocks. That's how the market works. But we don't even mind to lose money. Come and take our stock every day, publish what we have produced and what we have in stock, so that Nigerians can be they can be assured that there's more than enough to supply the domestic market. So the question is that, there is no need, there's no point of just making sure that, yes, you keep dumping stuff in the market. There's no country you can go and do this. Because all the other countries in Africa, everybody is praying every day to see that they have a refinery. We have President of Uganda. What he said that, somebody asked him, what legacy do you want to leave? when you are, leaving this office, say that I want to make sure I establish my refinery. We have established our own, but
and also for some kind of unquote sabotage.
yes, I mean, if now you have a bakery and I have your template, I know that your cost is 1,000 naira, and I'm coming to sell that bread in front of your bakery at 800. What is that? Is that, are you paying for me or you are sabotaging me? So that is sabotage. And the issue is that, all what I'm just saying, the key message is that I think we are allowing Farouk to destroy the economy of Nigeria. And I think we should not allow him to continue sabotaging and destroying the economy of Nigeria. That's what I keep saying, that look, we have a refinery. Even if Farouk will be there for the next 100 years, we cannot close this refinery. Even at a loss, we have to continue to run the refinery. It's too big, loud. I mean, have you ever seen an airline that's losing money that will go and just shut down? They won't shut down now. They will continue struggling, praying for a better day to come. That better day will come. Okay, so what is the key message? The key message, I think, Farouk should not be allowed to continue to destroy the economy of Nigeria. That's number one. Number 1B, C, D, E, F, it is that he has to be charged to either CCB, no, it's CCB, I think. No, Code of Conduct Bureau, because they have his returns. He must have filed and, register what he had. And so he needs to tell, because he's been working for government all his life. So he should tell, I know what it is. I told you earlier, I will not be able to afford sending 4 of my children to a secondary school, not university, to a secondary school to Switzerland at $5 million for the 6 years of 4 kids that he has. Okay, if you deny, as a matter of fact, if you deny, because after I know that it will be the major headline tomorrow. So when he denies it, I will publish with my name, saying that these are the schools that they attended and co. As a matter of fact, I will sue those schools to publish how much of fees he has paid for all the time that they were there, including now the other information which you don't have. He should give us the universities they went to and spent 4 years, how much he has paid. I know that one of them just finished Harvard, and tuition alone he paid $150,000.
Right, so much there. Really, the quiet Aliko Dangote has become the almost loquacious Aliko Dangote now. And now we make sense of this because some will think beyond the back and forth, there are deeper issues that Nigerians need to understand. We are being joined this morning by 2 guests. The first guest is a research and impact evaluator, a researcher and impact evaluator. Mr. Samuel Atiku joins us virtually from the UK. Good morning, Mr. Atiku. Thank you for joining us.
The program.
All right, and of course, Mr. Aseda joins us. He's an investment analyst and, of course, an economist. Thank you, Mr. Aseda, for joining us.
Good morning. Happy to be very here.
All right, now, gentlemen, let me start with you, Mr. Atiku. What do you make of all that has happened so far? Because the latest is the resignation of Mr. Farouk Ahmed, and very quickly, the nomination for his successor has been made already. Now, take it from Sunday to now, or even if you could take it from way back, from when this back and forth started. Mr. Atiku.
I think what we have is actually a clash between, I'll call it the power actors within the economy and the regulator. And it's normal for those clashes to happen. I mean, if you look at the banking sector, you have situations whereby the central bank and, of course, the directors and then the owners of bank often clash. If you go into the upstream sector, you see those clashes happen. If you go across board, you will see that happening. But I think the key thing here is, how will I put it now? I'm trying to be very, very light. I think for us as a country, I'll call it, I believe so much in institutions. We need to build up, we need to strengthen institutions. And we know the patterns that had happened, especially working around low, medium income countries for years. It's not uncommon for I'll call it the powerful economic actors to use instruments, different types of instruments, to actually assert what they want, especially from the regulator. That's one. On the other side also, sometimes regulators themselves are coerced, right, into taking actions that may not be in the best interest of the economy. Now, there's this big tussle between both ends that you keep pushing. Now, back to the, so that I don't draw us, begin to talk generally, back to what we are discussing here. If you look at the allegation that been laid against the regulator, the downstream regulators themselves, it's a situation whereby they tend to favor importers of, I'll call it petroleum products, PMS, AGOs, and then all the other views. They tend to favor them more than they favoring domestic producer. That's the way it's been portrayed. And even allegations, if you listen closely to what they've been saying, they're trying to actually connect it to the geopolitics that we see playing out in the world. You see accusations that crude oil from Russia, which the Russian government, given the fact that the war you have in Ukraine had made it impossible for them to openly trade their crude in the open market, meaning that they are trading at a very low price compared to what you have in the market. You have a situation whereby something in the region of about $45 per barrel is getting into the market, and then Nigerian marketers, right, are using that, and then they are using that to actually upend what you have in the domestic market. That's the first thing. Then you have the other end of things also, the allegation that, and then you have a Dangote that is bringing his crude out, buying it from the US, $65 or thereabout, if you look at the numbers, coming into the country and then refining the same thing, and then trying to sell in the same market. Of course, there will be friction. And that's the way it's been portrayed. But from my own standpoint, I'm a student of institution. I worry when economic actors use instrument of integrity to actually assert their pressures. Assert their positions. Why? When some of these issues actually come up, there are better ways to actually address it. I think that's my biggest fear, that if this, and one way or the other, it seems to have worked, because the lead, the regulators, the political head of the regulator, I always call them the political head. Always remember, I've worked so much with Nigerian government. I know some of these decisions, sometimes when it's been asserted by the person on top, if you look at the hierarchy itself, they tend to align. That's the truth. So you have career civil servants even within that system. So if the voice of the regulator is actually coming up to say, A, B, C, D is happening, and then you as a economic actor, you are now using I'll call it the instrumentation of integrity to actually assert your, meaning that you are accusing the person of corruption. You are using all those means and minds to actually assert your pressure. The problem is that in the long run, what ends up happening is that the institution is weakened, and when that institution is weakened, of course the ground will no longer hold. Then what happens is that if another player comes to the market that has that even more pressure, more powerful than you, definitely they will still use the same instrument against you. And that's the fear that we always have. But that said, this is actually a very messy situation. To use the word lightly. I think at some point in time, we need to find a way of actually clarifying this. I'm not in the school of thought that we should use instrument of integrity to assert our to assert our position, especially around regulators. Rather, there are more better ways of actually approaching this. It's about presenting your fact on the table and ensuring that everybody, of course, the National Assembly, you have a lot of oversight systems, even using the court system to actually assert your pressure rather than accusing and pointing fingers at people and then throwing, I'll call it now, throwing shades around and then using that to actually assert your position. I think that's my own position on this, so that I don't go on and on and on.
All right, Mr. Atiku, I'd like to ask you, having looked at the two sides, talking about the fact that both sides may be using, the powers within their own space to fight one another. Now, speaking to this fact now about, those resignations came in after a meeting with the president. Now, would you say that the president acted, after seeing the weight of the claim or the allegation made by Aliko Dangote against a person, in his administration? Would you say that that is a reactionary step that was taken, probably to mitigate the damage that may be done to his the office of the authority now, and then in extension, by extension, his own administration? Do you see it as reactionary?
Well, I think it's far more complex than that. I mean, if you see the allegation, take away the personal allegation, just move that away and look at the allegation. The allegation is very simple. Essentially, we're accusing the Nigerian regulator of facilitating the import of a Russian oil into the Nigerian domestic market to underpin and to actually, how will I put the word? Let me use the word, to actually suppress domestic production itself. That's the allegation. That's severe. That's very, very terrible. Especially when you look at the position Nigeria sits. You have the United States, you have the world itself exerting pressure on Russia because of invading Ukraine. So if you're the president of Nigeria and you have that kind of allegation on your table, I think the best thing you do is you won't sacrifice one man. You would rather sacrifice one man for the integrity of your government than actually allow things to go into this mode, and then it becomes even messy. Remember, it's not only him that was winged out. You have more people that were actually taken out of the system, and I'm sure more will actually have to go. So it goes beyond just economic argument. It goes beyond corruption. I think it's gone into the whole realm of geopolitics of Nigeria. And we all know where Nigeria is in terms of the insecurity that we have around us, the capability of Nigerians to actually buy weapons to fight the insecurity we are having in the country. So I think the president in a very, 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 I'll call it tipping point, I would say the ground is not very solid upon which the president can begin to say, okay, what are you saying, and begin to. I think for the sanctity of Nigeria, I think it's better you just pack the regulators away and then you begin to rebuild from where we are.
Interesting one. Yeah, let me go to Mr. Aseda. Mr. Aseda, we've had you on this program severally, especially when we talk about issues around the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, especially Dangote. I remember before he started, after the refinery was commissioned by the late Muhammadu Buhari, it took months, almost a year, before he kick-started. And around that time, the Nmdpra'S that has resigned now spoke on the issue. In fact, when Dangote said they are now mainstream and they are now working to say, what you guys have is 35% completion. Whatever is coming from you is even substandard. I'll allow you and our viewers, take a look at that video, actually.
supply of petroleum products nationwide, and the claims by some media houses that we're trying to scuttle Dangote refinery. That is not so. Dangote refinery is still in the pre-commissioning stage. It has not been licensed yet. We haven't licensed them yet. They are still in pre-commissioning. I think they're about 45% completion rather. So we cannot rely heavily on one refinery to feed the nation, because the Dangote is requesting that we should suspend or stop all importation of petroleum products, especially AGO and jet kero, and direct all marketers to the refinery. That is not good for the nation in terms of energy security, and that is not good for markets because of monopoly. So in terms of quality, currently the AGO quality in terms of sulfur is the lowest and far as West African requirement of 50 ppm. Dangote refinery, as well as some modular refineries like Walter Smith's refinery, Aseda refinery, they produce between 650 to 1,200 ppm. So in terms of quality, their quality is much inferior to the imported quality.
All right. I guess you can recall that actually that particular conversation, and immediately after that, the Centre has refused to vote for Aliko Dangote, who has been speaking on all available. In fact, I was on a lighter note joking with my colleague at Nmdpra'S to say that was 2 days ago that before Dangote ventured into this oil and gas, I'm sure half of Nigerians cannot even recognize what his voice looked like. He really grant interviews. Possibly you hear him on BBC, documentary, and all of those things. But since he ventured into this oil and gas business, the man has been talking, and he can't stop, talking about the pressure. In fact, there was a time he said he regrets if actually knew it was going to be this chaotic. Now, in that particular video, Mr. Aseda, the Nmdpra'S talked about day when he was in charge. When I say day, I mean the Nmdpra'S as a regulator standing against monopoly, and he talked about standardization, and many persons called for his head at that time. But now this is where we are, and the battle has removed the Nmdpra'S Farouk Ahmed. But some, in a kind of way, I think you have spoken to that as well, that maybe allegedly Dangote as a businessman has monopolistic tendency, and maybe this is one of those things that the regulator wants to fight against. Maybe there are things personal to Farouk Ahmed is another thing, but as a regulator saying they weren't going to reroute everything towards Dangote refinery, even when the man was saying whatever is needed in Nigeria as far as energy security is concerned, and even in Africa, Dangote refinery can produce. Why are you importing? But the man stood his ground, and with other things, he has gotten him off that particular place and even got personal at some point. What do you make of this battle? Taking it from that point of where Farouk spoke about, knowing fully well we have spoken on this matter severally, Mr. Aseda.
Okay, so I did say that. No, I did not say that he has a monopolistic tendency. He has a monopolistic tendency. He has it, not like he may be. There's no maybe about it. You have got to just look at his history of doing business, and then you can establish that. So his antecedents and the trend of his doing businesses actually show that. So let's put that to rest. So in that regard, Farouk Ahmed rather was saying or stating the obvious. Okay, and then again, we also said that at the very beginning, and I've stated this before, that the refinery in the way it is portrayed, and even the way that Dangote was pushing this refinery from the inception, I also mentioned that it was not good for him. Okay, it won't be good for him. Now, just to give you a quick background to Farouk Ahmed. Farouk Ahmed has been a player in this industry, has been in this industry for over 30 years. He rose from a junior executive position to where he is right now through the industry. Okay, so he is an industry player, and I will tell you this, that most of the industry players that I know actually detest Dangote's incursion into the petroleum industry. Okay, so that has to be put out there, and I can tell you, I have guys in all the ICOs, and I also work a little bit in that industry at the beginning of my career, so I can tell you that one for free. So that said, you see, this situation is double-edged. Nigeria need to have its domestic production. We have to, and we have said this time without number, that we really need to do what we call import substitution. And if you have to do import substitution, I'm situating us right now pre-2019. One of the first things that must leave your import list is petroleum product importation. That is a no-no for Nigeria. That's one of the destroyer of Naira as a currency, or the weakener, the weakening factor, major weakening factor of Naira as a currency, because all of these products are imported in dollars. So that means the value of Naira will be sliding, against dollars as a result of that huge demand for petroleum product importation. So that said, so we really need to up our game as regards to petroleum product domestic production. So we want to get to 100%. That's where we want to get to. But however, when you want to do that, the first thing you need to do is to say, okay, how do I want to do this? So you cannot have one channel as one channel. One source for your petroleum product. You have to distribute it. You have to have multiple. So ab initio, I don't expect that the Nigerian government will give license to should have given license to construct that scale of refinery by one person. Okay, but even if you have to do that, you have to create an enabling environment to ensure that other refineries are coming up at the same time with ease, and then to create an healthy competition, as well as to secure your energy source. All right. So, which is what I have not made my point. Which is what this is about now. So for Dangote to because his refinery, I've said it before, is perhaps the best in the world. I have known him for years, and I know how he does his business. Okay, so that refineries, I can tell you, in terms of scale, in terms of technology, is the best in the world, and it has the ability to be able to produce perhaps the cheapest per liter of petroleum products worldwide because of the type of technology that is deployed, which is similar to what he did with the cement factory, okay, which is better than what exists in most part in all of Europe as at the time that he started the one that he took us to, because I was there in Kogi State. So now if you look at that, that tells you that it will be very difficult for other refineries to be able to compete with him. But at least you create the environment for other refineries to come up. One of the things that you could do, which is what they failed to do because of corruption tendencies by this government, because that one of the accusations that Dangote was leveling against Farouk was the mismanagement of trillions of dollars that was meant to set up or to get the 3 or the 4 refineries that we have, Warri, Port Harcourt 1 and 2, and Kaduna refineries working, that they've spent money on over the years is trillions of dollars, and he cannot account for it. So now, one of the first things they ought to have done is to ensure that those refineries are sold to private investors for them to begin to produce. Now, the Farouk and his gang could not have. In fact, how would you put a, it's an aberration to get a regulator to also be running in the industry where it's regulating. So for those refineries, those refineries were under Farouk Ahmed. You understand? Those refineries should not be under him as a regulator. So you see, those are part of the misnomer.
All right, Mr. Aseda, because of time.
Yes, please.
We have so many things to talk about.
Yes, Mr. Atiku, I'd like to ask you, I'd like to get your reaction to some of the points that have been raised by Mr. Aseda this morning, starting from the point of monopolistic tendencies of Dangote, looking through his antecedents from all of the businesses he has in Nigeria as of today. But then let's also put into consideration the fact that we have monopolistic moribund of our petroleum, of our refineries already. Now, should we begrudge a Dangote who took a risk where no other person did, from the start of this, of the refinery and now up until it's now running? Let's talk about all of those things, and then not also taking the fact that other things that Mr. Aseda raised up until the point where he said a regulator should not also be a player in the field.
Yeah, I think some of the submissions are very valid. If you look at the, how will I call it? If you look at the business that Dangote had run, you look at the cement industry, for instance. People will typically look at it in that light, and you know that there were ongoing battles also. I think with between the Dangote group and then the BUA group, and then you have there's still one cement. I can't remember the name now. I can't remember the name. Lafarge. Southeast, and there was problem with Lafarge. You had problems. So but the cement industry is a little bit different in terms of the regulatory environment. I think this is the first time the Dangote group will be coming under significant regulatory oversight. And that said, I will say 5 broad things on the side of the regulators. The first thing is this: if you look closely at the regime that we are playing, and you look at the Petroleum Act, of course, we had a lot of long period of a lot of engagement around the new laws actually governing the Nigerian petroleum industry. I think it's important to mention quickly here that the fuel import licenses regime that the Nmdpra'S is operating, it's in complete, I would say it's the complete opposite of what they should be operating if you read the act letters for letters, because local refining capacities, right, should never be undercut. You should never undercut local refining capacity. So you have a situation whereby a local refinery is producing, let's say, 600 million liters. I'm just making that numbers up. And then the domestic market is supposed to consume maybe 600 million liters. What the law is saying that you must allow that 600 million liters come into the market before you actually bring in import. But that's not been the case anyway, and that's why you see those issues. And the second thing we need to understand also is that the cut price import allegation about Dangote going outside to bring in crude oil at $65. I think I mentioned that earlier. And that's not a fair regulatory environment to play. And number one, it's very difficult to track where the crude oil that we are buying is actually coming from. I mean, you could sidestep. I know how to sidestep. I can't be talking about all these things. There's a way you can take up crude oil from a particular country of concern, move it to another country, and then you shift them around, and then you evade more this regulatory environment. And that's what you see. So essentially, using the forces, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria also. I think even before Dangote refinery came into being, and that's been the bane of the Nigerian downstream sector, and that's why it has been impossible for any private refinery to successfully operate in the system. We understand that. And then the third thing is about weak transparency. When Dangote's refinery was coming up, the regulator was too quick to actually say, oh, this is their capacity, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I mean, that was a little bit not too transparent. I think there are better ways to actually approach those things. So that already sends a message across that, of course, you will meet us here. We have been in this space. We will show you Pepe. That's the way it reads. If you listen to those conversations, I think you did play some bits of that. Then the governance itself. I'm not a big fan of using corruption, but we all know, I mean, sincerely, we all know that, especially when you're playing outside the regular budget line. Remember Nimasa. We all know what goes on in some of these agencies. If you look at Nimasa, the people heads of Nimasa, how it's become a cash cow for some people. We all know how this regulatory system goes. We know about the corruption issues around the Nigerian downstream sector, even the upstream sector. We know this. We know some of these things, and it's easy to trade. I mean, government officials, they know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure they are listening to me now. They know what I'm talking about. I don't just like laying allegation without having substantive evidence. So putting all these things together, there's a problem on the part of Nigerian regulators. The role of regulation is actually to ensure that where you're playing, the economy, I mean, the environment in which everybody's playing is even for everybody. Why it is true that sometimes big players want to actually usurp small players or even grip the market. Your role as a regulator is to ensure there is balance, and the balance should be to the advantage of Nigeria and the Nigerian economy. So the question now is, how many domestic refineries the regulator protecting, or is the regulator actually protecting foreign interests, foreign businesses against the Nigerian
Atiku, we are due for a break, but before that, I'd like you to just clarify. You talked about the work of the regulator being balanced, protecting the smaller ones, you know, and the companies and all of those things. Don't you think maybe that was what Farouk Ahmed was trying to do? And maybe, well, maybe they push it to, I mean, maybe he stepped on big toes, like a toe of an Aliko Dangote.
The question is that if you look closely, how many refineries operate in Nigeria that the regulator is protecting? Or is the regulator actually making it easier for people to come into the country to actually set up refinery? If you ask yourself those two broad questions, you will raise a lot of red flags. If I want to come to Nigeria, the way the conversation listen to the conversation even before the refinery come on spring. I mean, when they were actually testing refinery, listen to the word of the regulator. It shows clearly an aggressive, for people that are very sensitive to, if you typically analyze people's speech and then the way they talk, if you listen to that already, the disposition and the way he was talking, he doesn't even have he doesn't have a license yet, ABCD, already sent a red flag. So I don't think it attracts anybody. I mean, if you're an investor, you want to come and invest, let's say $20 billion into the Nigerian economy to set up refinery, listening to that regulator, the question is that, will you be interested in bringing it on board? If you're a small manufacturer and you're looking to set up a small modular refinery in Nigeria, listen to that regulator. Will you be interested in actually jumping into the field? I don't think so. Wow. So we need to balance this and we need to look at this thing. Why I, as a person, believe that you should never use integrity as a tool to actually exert your pressure. If you listen to the regulator themselves, I'm not satisfied that they've played their role as regulators, ensuring that there's fair balance, making sure that an Atiku, an Olu, and Emeka can come into the country and set up their refineries without fearing that foreign interests will actually absorb that. That should be your primary goal as a country. That should be your primary goal as a regulator. Then the second thing is ensuring that there's fair practice among all players in the same industry. Why it is true, yes, everybody wants to absorb everybody. That's the truth. It's a dog-eat world. That's what they say. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Especially when you're playing in business. Your role as regulator is to ensure that that balance is there. But unfortunately, I don't think the transparency and the governance around the downstream sector. It's there. If you look at the upstream sector, you will not see some of these things. It's there, but you will not see it become unwitted the way we are seeing in the downstream sector. And it's not just peculiar to that. Also, if you talk to people even marketing crude oil on the street, and you have a conversation with them, they will tell you the same thing.
All right, Mr. Atiku and Mr. Aseda, thank you so much for your submission so far. We'll be taking this quick break. When we return, we'll delve into the deeper conversation. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the show, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. And on today's episode, we've been talking about the allegation against the authority boss, Farouk Ahmed, who Aliko Dangote has made an allegation against about corruption. And we've been speaking to Mr. Atiku and Mr. Aseda this morning, who are analysts on the show right here this morning. You're welcome back on board.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to ask you, Mr. Aseda, about how, yes, we've had private sector refining right now, and at the same time, Nigeria's political economy has seemed to thrive on or depended really on fuel importation. And at this time, it also means that the refinery that has been born, has been born into an economy that is incentivized against it. So now speaking about these issues now, how do you see it play out with the resignations now, and then talking about what happens at this point? Are we going to be having a climate where we see the true picture of who Dangote is, as you've put it, with the monopolistic nature now? Or we're going to see a different climate where we're not having rules being the rules, the players being the players, the regulators being regulators?
Okay, so again, let me say the first thing I will let you know is that whatever problems that Dangote had, that he had, is going to continue. It's not going to change. Okay, so the change of the CEO of the regulator it won't change anything. Okay, so the lady that is coming in is also a well-known person in the industry. Well, she knows her onions and she's a tough cookie, and I expect that she will also, she will try to apply the rules as she seems, seems real and good to her. Okay, so I am hoping that. What she would do is to be balanced. Now, this is the argument of Farouk Ahmed. Farouk Ahmed is saying, that the Dangote refinery is not producing enough to meet the Nigerian market need. Now, I like what is going on in the sense that, they are bringing in what they are bringing in, and Dangote is is reducing the prices as is currently doing. You will remember on this program that I mentioned that refinery can deliver sub 300 per liter. As in something in the region of 300 or less per liter. That refinery is that capable.
In naira, 300 naira.
In naira, 300 naira per liter. That refinery can deliver it. Okay, so I would back that up with what I've said earlier, that refinery is perhaps one of the best in the world in terms of their ability to produce more from unit volume of crude oil. Okay, so that said, okay, and then you also know that there's a fertilizer factory.
Yes.
At
on the side.
Yeah. So the all of the residues from the refinery are money, and one of it is fertilizer. So I'm telling you, you have the business
perhaps those that have been feeding off of the hardship we've been having from the problems associated with petroleum and its byproducts. All of those are those that are trying to really stifle, the efforts of this refinery. Do you not think?
What is happening? Yes, what is happening is a lot of vested interest, in fuel importation. Do not forget that our president's cousin runs O&O. So, and they are perhaps the second largest importers of petroleum products. And you think that's going to go away? Okay, so you're going to have that. For me, I think I like it. Okay, the monopolistic tendencies and the business strategy that Dangote has deployed over the last 30 years is coming to play right now. Okay, so is using it. So what we said before is using. Now my problem with this is that eventually importation is going to go away. Okay, and then we're going to be having domestic production taking care of us. So from what I know of Dangote, after he has chased away his competitors with price cutting, then he will raise his price and will refuse to go down.
All right, okay. I'd like to ask before my colleague comes in.
So that's what he has done with cement. Okay. That's what he has done with sugar. So that's what he has done.
And you see him doing that again. All right, so
of course, with everything, that's what it's going to do. Now, what the regulator, now, the energy industry is a different kettle of fish. And, I know eventually Nigeria is going to resist that because energy is too important to be played with the way he played with cement and other industries that he has played at. Okay, so I expect there will be a pushback, and I'm really sorry for him because he was not well advised, and the way he's pushing what he's pushing is going to eventually backfire on him. And what I'm hoping that as a nation, especially with the regulator, is that we will create an environment, okay, whereby it will be easier for other players to come in and to also thrive. I rejoiced last week when I heard that Lagos State is going to house another, refinery. I know one is happening in Ogun State. As in the construction has been going on, and but it's a smaller version, a smaller scale of refinery. I hope they will deploy a very good technology to actually match up with the tech that you have in Dangote refinery. And to answer Farouk about, he goofed in that video that he showed when he talked about the poor quality of Dangote.
Okay.
That was when they were still working and trying to produce. So it will be like that. But as of today, most drivers will tell you that the Dangote petrol is better than the one they are getting from the other casual users. You understand? Not to mention technical analysis of these two, the imported fuel and the one that Dangote is producing. I can tell you, Dangote refinery, with me closing my eyes, not looking at any document, I tell you that it will be one of the best products in the world. I can tell you that one for free because of his antecedent and the kind of tech that is putting into what he does. Now, what we really need to do again is for this regulator is to be transparent about testing the kind of product that comes into the country. That's what the regulator can do. I hope the new MD is going to act in that direction, to be transparent, to be open, okay, so that we can, all of us can see, oh, this is what it is. This is what. Yeah. So, and then we can move on from there, and then the regulator can actually be effective. But the first thing that they really need to do is to create a framework to allow to enable foreign investors or new investors to come into the industry.
All right.
and begin to play. Now,
the back and forth, in that particular interview on Sunday, or the press conference rather, that was held, at Dangote's refinery, he talked about sabotage, actually, and how he has been battling. And in fact, he made a revelation where he said the actual number of security staff that he has, they are larger than the tech guys, than the people that are even working in the petroleum, in the refinery, that he has more security inclined staffers than other persons who actually carry out the operationalization of the refinery. And he speaks to how much he's spending on security, people stealing as petty things as even wires, in that kind of place. And so he speaks to the ease of doing business. And he said if it's about price cutting, he's ready, to even go as lower as he can. And he talked about people that are talking about him being monopolistic. And he said, the sky is open for everybody to thrive. He said they are complaining. Some of them are even saying they are going to get, when he churned out that 4,000 CNG trucks, many persons were complaining when he said he was going to go fully into the downstream sector by distributing. That don't even come to the Lekki axis or wherever his company is. He will go out and distribute for anybody that wants to buy as a company. Some marketers, rebelled against that to say, you want to run us out of business. We are not doing that. I remember, Mr. Aseda, we had a conversation with you, just talking about the ease of doing business. And he says, if they can match his 4,000, he said he can bring in 10,000 as well to show that he's ready for this business. And it sounded quite unusual, for you to see an Aliko Dangote.
And then he also mentioned the fact that he also said he's not going away. That
he said that as well, to say whatever it takes.
So clearly, he has said it too.
Mr. Aseda, if I may, and it sounded to many persons like he means business, and it might be sounded a bit maybe too cocky. This one is to Mr. Atiku. And many persons, when he started our refinery, he was complaining every time. Many persons say, this is the game of the big boys. If you are tired of the heat, or if you can't stand it, get out of the kitchen. And the man is saying, I'm ready right now. But the issue of this back and forth, I'm just trying to, put in many things so that you can answer because of the constraint of time. When he went personal, he made the allegation to say this man is living beyond his means. In fact, he even recommended the prosecution of Farouk Ahmed to say, ICPC, you have a work to do. CCB, you have a work to do. And it went yada, 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 how the man is, whatever is earning, and how can he sustain the like kind of education that he gave his children, that's Farouk's children, in Switzerland, mentioning the name of the school, how many the children were, the kind of money that they pay. To think that wasn't even enough, then he came up with a document, and I'd like a producer to put that up, where he was very categorical. The names, no, not this, I think there's another one, where he talked about and put to names of all the children allegedly spent over $5 million on 4 children, foreign secondary education in Switzerland, name of the school, for how long, and all of those things. And he said, I am ready. Less than a week later, the man resigned. Now, Mr. Atiku, looking at all of these connections that I put together, especially this last, how far is too far for you? Somebody is trying to prove a case to say, I have everything necessary, I have my document, and even made them public, including in the name of family members and the man's children, not just about the man. Do you think Aliko Dangote went too far and took it too personal? In fact, the question is, how far is too far on this matter?
I mean, I've said it repeatedly that it's a completely wrong approach when you're dealing with regulation. Anybody can just imagine everybody that you're playing every business in Nigeria, and the truth is that we have almost about 1 million registered business, whether it's a sole proprietorship or it's actually a limited liability company. Just imagine everybody, just because a regulator doesn't align with your will, then I go pay for investigators to begin to look for dig up things against the regulator himself, and then creating infographics and publishing in newspapers. That's an integrity blackmail. It's a way of blackmailing people into action or forcing the arms of government to actually remove that regulator. And it took it too personal, beginning to not looking at the institution itself, but rather looking at the person of that institution. I think it's a complete wrong approach. If you look at it, I mean, I did some bit of work around why institutions fail, especially in low, medium income countries. And this is one of the reasons, actually using the instrumentation of integrity as a tool to force government, to force regulators to begin to coerce to what you want. That's the first thing. Sorry. The second thing is around accountability, capturing the mechanism, what we call the paradoxical effect of oversight. Essentially, if you look at politicians, if they want to force another politician to shut up, right? They use anti-corruption agencies, they use auditors, they use ethical watchdogs to co-opt them into shutting them down. And even civil society voice, media, that's what you use, right? You typically point fingers at people. So when you begin to use that between economic actors and their regulators, that's not a very good way. It's going to get messy, and then it's going to destroy that institution, because faith will be lost in that institution. And once faith is lost, it becomes a free-for-all. That's the second thing that we've observed. The third thing I will talk about here is around, I'll call it the pathology of oversight itself. That's the shielding effect of regulatory behavior. Typically, when you do this kind of things across multiple settings, in China, despite the fact that you have the strong arm of government in China, we've seen instances itself where incident of oversight and the threats of allegation had been used to actually shuttle down regulatory independence and decision making. Essentially, the new person comes in and he tries to do something that is nice, they shut the person down, another person. Over time, you have somebody in there that the person will just dance to your tune. And that's not going to be healthy for the economy itself. When we look at the long-term effect on Nigeria as a whole, it may work in favor of Dangote, but for Nigeria as a whole, people should be worried about this kind of approach to things. So what you have asked, the question you asked is simple, so that I don't go on and on and on. That what Dangote had done is it ideal? I think it's not ideal. Nobody should do that. You should not do that. Rather, I think the asymmetric system whereby regulators themselves and the business entities, they communicate among themselves and they find solutions to problems is better than tearing everything up in open and then begin to issue sanctions. I think that's on one side. The second thing is also bringing the family of the man in question. The truth is this. Allegations that somebody sent his child to a $5 million or a $5 billion school does not hold, as long as you can prove that that person stole money. You have to show clearly how the person have used his position, abused his position to actually accumulate wealth. I've not seen anything in that allegation that suggests that maybe it's the importers that are giving him money or something. That's not been the allegation. The allegation is simple, that your lifestyle choices is becoming a problem. Your means, your earnings cannot match up with your lifestyle choices, and because of that, you should be removed from. That means you are corrupt. That's wrong. For instance, you can see somebody on the street that is poor but sent his child to a very expensive school. Doesn't mean that that person has stolen money. There may be factors underpinning that thing. So when you begin to throw allegations that even go to the integrity of the children, especially the child involved, I think that's going overboard. It's strange that this is happening. It happens within politicians, especially when politicians are trying to contest election, trying to show I have more integrity than you. But when you see a business owner that is playing under a regulator begin to use those instruments to absorb and then to shuttle down a regulator, I think it should be condemned. Personally, I don't agree with that approach. I think there are better ways to actually get this thing over with. I think what Dangote had done, and he has used his own personal name to do that, I think it's wrong. I think it's a completely wrong approach. The outcomes, the immediate outcome seems to be in his favor, but the long-term impact on especially the institution itself we are trying to build. If you look at the petroleum industry bill, it's going to be very severe and it's going to harm the sector even more. I think we've done more damage to the sector than we are. I mean, yes, you can have somebody, you can have a bad regulator, but the institution should be the focus. And unfortunately, this will harm the institution.
All right, Mr. Atiku, just before we go, I'd like to ask you, the Nmdpra'S under this administration has been one that has not done the job of price regulation so well. How would you speak to this in the coming days and with this new administration? I'm talking about the Nmdpra'S administration now. If it comes into play, how would you expect them to kick off, especially in the area of price regulations?
I think there are 5 things that's important to mention here, especially around the regulator. The first one, I think I talked about, is the import, what you call the import license design. If you look at the Petroleum Industry Act itself, that establishes and gives power to the I'm used to DPR, Nmdpra'S, yeah. If you look closely at the posture is very simple. That we give you import license to cover shortfall in imports. That's been the posture. If you look at the fine letter, that's the law. That's the law that we have. I don't agree with that law, but that's what we have. Unfortunately, that's not been the direction of travel when you look at the actions of the Nmdpra'S itself. And that's the first thing we need to address. The second thing is about the import licensing regime that we have. I think if you look closely at the people that get this license, and then it's very simple. They are still big players. It's not small players. If you're looking for somebody that will bring in 1 million liters of crude, they will not even get the license. It's the big players that are getting the license. And so it's actually a battle between 2 big people. A lot of big people fighting it out. So it's not about a small player. I mean, don't think about people importing crude oil or importing PMS diesel into the country as a small player. They are not small players. They're actually big players in the industry. So if you look at the posture itself, there seems to be, if you look at the policy posture of these regulators themselves, it suggests, I will say that they tend to favor importers over domestic production. I think I want to see more regulatory to actually ease off and encourage more people to set up refinery in country rather than actually begin to protect importers at the detriment of the domestic economy.
Import, I was going to say import. Point made. That was a question I wanted to ask, but because of your job and background, about the impact that this will have for us to evaluate it, and thank goodness, while making your submission, you answered it. So thank you for today. I will allow Mr. Aseda make his final remarks on the program submission, and if you can do that, Mr. Aseda, in 30 seconds, because we are totally out of time. People talked about cabal in government, especially the oil sector, that there is a cabal within the government and there is a cabal outside the government. And I'm using this very carefully, that whatever was going on, especially from Sunday till now, from the angle of Dangote, you could see a Femi Otedola projecting, retweeting, following his dear friend to do that. Do you think this is a battle of a cabal within the government and another cabal outside of the government? If you understand what I mean. 30 seconds.
Yes, well, I will say this. Well, again, kind of dovetail leads into what Samuel just said about the regulators. Now, what is happening is that there is no place for where you have an industry player to be able to kind of like object to or to complain about the activity of the regulators. When you do not have such opening, such window, you get what you are getting. Okay, so I think what the government need to do is to create the enabling environment for objections to regulatory, outreach and all that. So with regards to this one, there's no cabal. It's just people trying to fight for what they believe is their right.
All right.
And I don't think that should be the case. Yeah. You understand? So we should create an environment.
You're talking about an ombudsman that can always take complaints. And
and I think one of the places that you could go is the House of Assembly and the Senate, because this is a big issue, national issue. All right. And we should have such, hearings at the.
We have to go, Mr. Aseda,
to address those things.
Thank you very much. If only you are talking about oversight function of different committees that has to do with that particular sector. But then this is Nigeria. There's a way people will tell you, whenever some of those persons allegedly, all in the name of committee, make oversight function, somebody is smiling away to somewhere. That's just the way Nigerians will see it. Gentlemen, thank you. Samuel Atiku, a researcher, impact evaluator, and of course, business and economic strategies, investment strategies, you say, Aseda. Thank you, gentlemen, for your take. This is your country. We must keep talking about it. You will see the change that we desire. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, up and
All right. It's been an interesting, insightful, an air-clearing, conversation. That is the penultimate installment of Morning Spring today. Join us again for the ultimate installment of Morning Spring for this week. And yes, we're moving, faster and faster to the end of year. And we wish you all of the best, that you wish for this year. My name is Nmdpra'S Ajijalaluwala. Wishing you a lovely day.
And Femi Ojo is my name, and exactly a week from now, it will be Christmas.
Yeah.
All right. See you
Merry
tomorrow.
Christmas in advance.